It took me a few.
Okay. The Farbrengen starts like this. This is a Sicho of Shabbos Parshas Yisro Mevorchim. We bless the month of Adar Rishon in the year Tafshin Lamed Gimel 1973. Kvoid Kiddush Zamen Shlita Kiddush Al Yain. The Rebbe made Kiddush on wine. The Rebbe said like this: Inin Shal Chodesh Iber. What is the idea of a leap year? Sheshach Bar the Shabbos Mevorchim Chodesh Adar Rishon. We already get into the concept of a leap year. I mean, the whole year is a leap year, but we start to realize it. On the Shabbos, we bless the month of Adar Rishon because we call it Adar Rishon. Is Hischol Kfar Bezman Yitzis Mitzrayim. Already when the Jewish people left Egypt, they already had the concept of leap years. Because in Egypt, Hashem told them about the new months. Kiddush Chadashim B'Ibr Shanim. They learned about how do they sanctify the new moon and the times they would need to the year. Hello, Beth. And even the Rebbe said that there's the concept of having a leap year. In the Jewish calendar, we have a leap year every few years because we have to equalize the lunar year with the solar year, and there's a difference of about 11 days or so a month, a year. So every 3 years or so, you have to catch up. So the lunar year should be together with the solar year. And in other places, they don't. If they go according to the lunar year, they just let it cycle. That's why you'll see the Ramadan goes. Lahavdil from moves around different times of the year because they never catch up to the solar year. But in Judaism, we catch up to the solar year in order to be able to have the Pesach in the spring. Okay, so the Rebbe says the idea that there was leap years in the calendar was even before the Jewish people left Egypt. It's brought down in the Medrash. Shakadosh Baruch Hu nasnu la'adam rishon began Eden. The Medrash says that God gave to first man, means the first man that was created in the Garden of Eden, the concept of the months of the calendar. But to make it a commandment that there's a mitzvah to sanctify and how one looks at how the Bezdin institutes the sanctification of the month and the new year and the leap year, that only happened once the Jewish people left Egypt. And he says, the Rebbe continues, when it came time for Matan Torah, then it became even more sanctified, the more actualized, because everything we know that was given before the giving of the Torah had to be given again by the giving of the Torah to have the significance of all the parts of Torah were given by the giving of the Torah, which is this week's parsha. Kamoi kol ha-mitzvahs, like all the commandments, all the mitzvahs that we do today after the giving of the Torah, is mitzad ha-tzivu b'matan Torah. It's because of the commandment that God told us at Torah. It means even things that we find that are mentioned in the Torah as commandments before Matan Torah, for example, certain parts of the ligament that we don't eat on an animal. So even though the Torah talks about it in the beginning of the Torah, but the reason we do it is not because of the story with Yaakov getting hit by the angel, but because this is the commandment that God gave us in Har Sinai, Matan Torah. The Mitzad Kamosh Kosef HaRambam, this is all brought down in Maimonides in his Pirush HaMishnayos of the tractate Chulin, that he says, Shekol HaMitzvahs Sha'anu Mekayim, all the commandments that we fulfill today, Gam HaMitzvahs Sh'nistavlu Fnei Matan Torah, even the commandments that were mentioned before Matan Torah, Vafilu Mitzvah Smila, even the commandment of circumcision, which was told to Avram Avinu about 400 years before the giving of the Torah, Shnitin Avram Avinu, and God told him that I'm giving you a special mitzvah commandment for you and your sons and your children for generations. Nevertheless, why do we do it now? Not because God told Avram, because in the giving of the Torah, the time of giving of the Torah, God said to do the commandment of circumcision the same way I told Avram. But it had to be re-emphasized and re-given again by Matan Torah. The point is that anything that's connected to the Torah was given by Matan Torah. There's no parts of Torah, even if they were mentioned before, even if they're mentioned to different people before, even if they're mentioned in a way that this is for generations, has to be we do it because God gave it to Moshe on Har Sinai. Now, Vihine, do it's known, Teres Baal Shem Tov, the teaching of the Holy Baal Shem Tov. Shekol davar shehudi shemei ireya ba'olam. Anything a person hears or sees in the world is not by chance. Anything, any scenario, you're on a subway, you hear a conversation, anything a person hears or sees in the world It's a message from God. There's something you have to learn from it. Some way or another, you have to find some kind of situation that you learn from this, what you've seen or heard, a way to serve God. This is the whole purpose of a person's creation, is to serve God. So any information that comes your way has to be able to be used in some way or another in enhancing your service of Hashem. Kedivrei Mishnah b'Seif Mesechtes Kedushin, as the Mishnah says at the end of the tractate of Kedushin, Ani lo nivreisi, why was I created? Why was anyone created? Ela l'shamash eskoini, to serve my master, meaning Hashem. Kach, shekol hanyanim shekarim loy, anything that happens to a person, heim v'shvil iker tachliisei, anything that happens a person experiences in their life is for their purpose of their being, and their purpose of their being is to serve Hashem. So some way or another, a person has to take every experience, good or bad for that matter, in a way that enhances how they fulfill the service of Hashem. La'avid is Hashem, to serve God. Therefore, kol davar shemei, if you hear something or see something, which is more, it means you're being given something new, whether you saw something new or you heard something new, is shezeh beglal, that's the reason why you've seen something or happened to hear something, is shemil ma'ila, from above, sivivu es advarim, God made it work this way. Sheira yishma zayis, that you should see or hear this thing. Tzarach lisiachas I love ba'ofen sheyuchel linatzel zayis avur inyani ha'ikri l'shamash eskoini. Your person has to figure out a way. How could I take this new information that I've seen, and it's actually very intense what the Baal Shem Tov was saying, that every single interaction, every single thing that happens in a person's life, some way or another, you have to translate that, maybe not in something revolutionary, but some way or another to enhance and help in your service of Hashem. And if the Baal Shem Tov says that any happening in your life has to be a way to serve Hashem, has to be a lesson in serving Hashem, so even more so, when it comes to things that are connected directly with commandments of the Torah of the mitzvahs, surely you have to learn how things happen around Torah mitzvahs as a way to serve Hashem. We'll see what the Rebbe is getting at. Page 169. V'kivon shal Torah mitzvahs nemar. When it comes to the commandments of Torah mitzvahs, the verse says, "Ki ner mitzvah v'Torah are," that a mitzvah is like a candle, and Torah is like the light. Means there are candle and light together give off light to a person. It means Torah mitzvahs gives life and light to a person. Hari movin, it's understood. Shahai Torah mitzvahs. When it comes to a person learning a lesson from things that are around connected to the Torah mitzvahs, they're more connected to revelations. For other things, it means something that comes your way in a way that you've seen an opportunity with the Torah mitzvahs has to be more than just a lesson that you see happening in the world. If you see an interaction, two people talking, which doesn't necessarily have to do with something that's directly connected to Torah or mitzvahs. Even though, like we said before, any happening should be a lesson for you in your service of God, but something that's connected to Torah mitzvahs has to be a stronger lesson or a more revealed lesson. There's truth in the world, and therefore there has to be some sort of truth, whether it's something it teaches you not to do or something it teaches you to do. That God gives truth to the world. Not always is a person able to see a lesson from happenings in the world. Because even though there's truth in the world, but the world tries to conceal that truth. So therefore, it's much harder to find a lesson or a direct lesson in one's service to God from all kind of happenings in the world. But when it comes to things that are connected to Torah mitzvahs, it should be easier for a person to use that as a springboard to motivate them or teach them within their service of God. The Rebbe says, like we find, even when it comes to the names of God, it says, Zashmi li'olam, this is my name forever, and the wording, the spelling is la'olam, missing a vav, chsiv, mishum hela, because in the world, it's the way God's name is concealed within creation. V'hainu sha'olam ma'ilo master, that the world conceals, even the names of God get concealed within creation. We don't see godliness clearly. Even more so. If we don't always see God's name in the world, surely things that are in the world that are not connected to God's name directly are definitely concealed from light and holiness. So therefore, it's much more challenging to find how do you learn a lesson from service of God, from happenings in the world, when it's not connected to anything godly or even to God's name. The point the Rebbe is saying is that when it comes to things that we see in Torah mitzvahs, we have to be able to find the lesson easier than if we find just an interaction of the world, how someone crossed the street or all kind of things. If a person could make it up, what the Baal Shem Tov was saying is that a person should be making observations around them, of happenings around them, to try to see how could you learn from these happenings one way or another to serve God better. But the happenings in the world are much more of a challenge to be able to find a lesson. But when it comes to Torah mitzvahs, the lessons should be easier. When it comes to things around Torah mitzvahs, because the whole point of a mitzvah, unlike the way godliness is revealed in the world, is not about concealment, but Torah mitzvahs is all about light, to emanate clarity. So the lessons that one has to learn in the service of God, it has to be easier for a person to find lessons from the happenings of Torah than it should be from the happenings around them in the world. So what's the point? So in our point here, one could learn what kind of lesson could one learn? Hold on one second, guys. Let me see if I sent out the Sicho class. Yes, I did. Okay. So,
Yeah, you did send it. You did, yeah.
What lesson can a person learn in their service of God from the concept of a leap year? How could it be a lesson for every person, not just for individuals? Even if you're not up to the levels of learning things on the level of Kabbalistic teachings or Hasidic teachings, how could one find a lesson from a leap year in their service of God? Every mitzvah is connected to every person. Therefore, we must say, every person has to be able to learn from every mitzvah some sort of lesson that will help them and enhance in their service of God. Therefore, so the Rebbe says, I'm not going to first explain what is the significance of a leap year in the Kabbalistic teachings, because maybe someone is not up to teach the Kabbalistic teachings, and therefore for them it won't be a lesson. So the Rebbe is going to teach it according to the simplicity of the concept of a leap year. From this we could learn a lesson even in a simple understanding of the mitzvah. So what does this all mean? So the Rebbe says like this: what is the simple reason? Meaning to say, like I said before, the reason we leap the year is in order to get the calendar, the lunar and solar calendar in line. Kabbalistically, there's other reasons why we leap the year. There's more hidden reasons. But the Rebbe is going to say there's a lesson even from the simple reason, just to see how we get the calendars in line. So the Rebbe is like this: the simple reason why one has a leap year is, or why God made the concept of leap year. We know that how could one count the year cycle is either through the solar calendar or the lunar calendar. By Jews, our months go according to the lunar calendar. We have every month is 29 and a half days, and therefore some months have 30 days and some months have 29 days. Because we have to have some, if every month would be 30, then we'd go over because it's only 29 and a half days. If every month was only 29 days, we'd be missing a half a day. So we'd be missing 6 days in the year. So therefore, the calculation is pretty much that we're half and half. And sometimes we have 2 extra days. Sometimes we have 2 less days. But we're pretty much 358, between 356 and 358 days a year. So he says, and as opposed to the solar year is longer. So he says, a cheshbon, we can count the calendar year either according to the solar or the lunar. The Jewish calendar goes according to the lunar months. We learned about the sacrifices. That's each month. And we learned that this is the month of the heads of the month when we learned the laws of the new month of the calendar in the month of Nisan. But the months we count according to the solar calendar. When is the beginning and the end of a new month? And we have 12 months traditionally in a year. But what's considered a year as far as the seasons go? That's solar. And they're not the same. Right? There's about 11-day difference between the solar and the lunar calendar. So if we're going to just count the lunar, if we look at the months, then we're lacking 11 days in the year, which is the solar. So therefore, we need a leap year to make up that space. Because there's a difference. Because we know that the solar year is about 11 days longer than the lunar year. Like he says, Rebecca, to be exact, it's exactly 10 days, 21 hours, and 204 parts. This is according to the way they divide time according to Torah, but it's basically just under 11 days is the solar calendar longer than the lunar calendar. Therefore, and because we have to have the seasons going according to the solar calendar, it's Kadeshi Shtavu Vlaitia Benem, in order for us to keep that there should be an ongoing contradiction. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be able to work together. Therefore, when we gather after 2 or 3 years, we gather 11 days times 2 or 3. Why is it sometimes a leap year doesn't? It's not every 3 years, because if we did every 3 years, so then we would have it's too many days, too many. So it's 2 years and 3 years. They work it out that the system equalizes itself, and then once in every 28 years, it kind of makes it exact. So when we have an extra 30 days, meaning to say we're lacking 30 days in the solar years after, let's say, 3 years. If you're missing 11 days, 11 days, 11 days, so after 3 years, you're missing 33 days, right? So then we add a month in the lunar calendar in the year, and so the extra month makes up for the 30 days that we're missing. And therefore, that year becomes a year like this year in the Jewish calendar, we're a year of 13 months. It's called the leap year. However, the Rebbe says, if we do it every 3 years only, so like I said, then it's 33 days we're missing. We'd still be lacking 3 days every 3 years. And after a while, those 3 days build up. Because in 3 years, we have 33 days that are missing. If we take 3 years of the solar and 3 years of if we count together 3 years of the solar calendar and 3 years of the lunar calendar, the difference is 33 days. So if we only add 30 days, we're still missing 3 days. And if we add 1 month, it's only 30 days. We're still missing 3 days. So now we're at 5,784 years. That's a lot of days in over a long period of time. Therefore, sometimes we don't wait 3 years for a leap year. We wait only 2 years. Means we go 3 years. We make a leap year. We add a month. We're still missing a few days. So after a while, we'll add another. We'll do it every 2 months, and therefore that 2 months adds to. Therefore, that extra month kind of makes up for the lag of the 3 days that would be missing if we only did 3 months. This is the math. Therefore, sometimes we only wait 2 years to add in another month, another 30 days into the lunar calendar. And that makes up for the 3 days that are missing if we would just wait every 3 years. Because after 2 years, because if we only wait 2 years, so there could be some times it all equals out after a whole bunch of years. But if let's say the last leap year was 2 years ago, so then we were only lacking 22 days. But you have to also count backwards the time that we were missing 3 days. So then maybe we were lacking 25 days. So therefore, we had 30 days, we only have an extra 5 days. So therefore, the extra 5 days, after 3 years, we take 2 days off those 5 days, and we only have an extra 2 days. It goes back and forth like that until they all equal out. So it's 22 days. ועדיין חסרם כמה ימים לחודש שלם. וממילא כשמוסיפים חודש שלם משלימים בזה את הימים העודפים שנעשו בפעם הקודמת. And therefore, from the extra days that we had, that we were missing from the previous 3 years, we add to the 2 years, and then together comes 27 years, 25 days, and it all equals out. And eventually, the years, the solar calendar and the lunar calendar pretty much are equal. Sometimes we'll have a long cycle, and therefore, if we add a month, we're still behind the solar calendar. And sometimes we're at a point where we've added a month and we're ahead of the solar calendar. So when we add a full month, we are able to adjust the days. That we added to the leap year. Eventually, everything equals out. He says, so what is the full cycle of a lunar and solar year that they should totally equalize together? It takes 19 years. A cycle of 19 years of this lunar calendar having 12 months, which is then 11 days behind the solar calendar. And then we add every once in a while a leap year. So within a total of 19 years, it totally equals out the solar and the lunar calendar. All the extra days or the lacking days kind of equal out. That's why anyone, if you notice, people don't pay attention to this, but almost 100% of the time, not 100%, but almost 100% of the time, let's say you were born on January 1st of a certain year, and that day happened to be the first day of the month of Tevet, let's say. So in very rarely does our Hebrew birthday and English birthday work out the same, right? You could be born, for instance, I'm born July certain date, and I'm born Thomas a certain date, but not sometimes my birthday falls out in different days in the Hebrew calendar as from the regular calendar. But every 19 years, you'll see that the same day you were born, that's the day of your birthday. Meaning to say that if you were born on January 1st, when you turn 19, your Hebrew birthday will fall out on January 1st. And the same thing happens in the next 19 years. When you turn 38, same thing. In another 19 years, 57, you also exactly fall out on that date. So he says, every 19 years it equals out. The days of the month, the days of the solar and the lunar calendar. But even after 19 years, there's still a little bit of extra. How much? 1 hour and 485 parts. When I say parts, is like the seconds in Jewish calendar. They don't divide by 60 seconds, they divide by parts. So 1 hour and 485 parts. The Rebbe says, I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but there is a little bit left over, and I think it takes even longer time for it to go 100%. Okay, so that's the idea of a leap year. That's why we have a leap year, according to the simple explanation. If anyone asks, what's the idea of a leap year? This is the answer. We need that the solar calendar should be in line with the lunar calendar. It takes a cycle of pretty much 3 years, in a larger cycle of 19 years, and almost then it goes exact, missing an hour with the solar and the lunar calendar. And that's why that 1 hour and 485 missed parts is why sometimes, I said it's not 100%, sometimes if you're born very late at night or very early in the morning, sometimes your 19th or your 38th birthday will be a day before, a day after. Because depending on time, exactly the time of the day you were born, it's fascinating actually. So I had 1 year where, because I was born, I think, very late at night. So the 1 year, I think it was my 19th birthday or my 38th birthday, where my English birthday was 1 day off. Why? Because that little hour took it over to the other side. All right. Now, the Rebbe said before, everything that happens in Torah especially, we're supposed to learn a lesson. So what's the lesson that we could learn from the concept of a leap year? What is the difference between the concept of the moon and the concept of the sun? The sun is always the exact same light. The sun is that's the sun. It doesn't get smaller and larger like the moon. You don't see changes. Every day, I mean, if there's not a cloudy day, obviously the winter and the summer, the sun is further and closer, but the sun itself is the same. Talmud b'shav, it's always the same. If the Rebbe says, oh, surely there's a difference between the winter and the summer. The differences that we have, Hishon, on page 170, the differences that we have in the winter and the summer of the moon, we're discussing now the lessons we could learn from everything in life. And what's the lessons from a leap year? Because this week is Shabbos Mevorchim, the month of Adar Rishon. So we know the concept of leap year in the simple sense is in order to equalize the solar and the lunar calendar, like the Rebbe just explained up until now, to the 11-day difference, and therefore there's extra days. Every once in a while we have to add 30 days. Sometimes we wait 3 years, 2 years. We're pretty much in a cycle of 19 years. The solar and the lunar calendar add together. So we're holding in the middle of the paragraph of Dalid. So the Rebbe says, "V'ilu or halavana." But so the sun is constantly the same, pretty much besides the winter and the summer. The extremes of the sun's differences in the winter or the summer, just in distance, but not that the sun is the sun. You don't see a quarter of the sun. When it comes to the moon, the light of the moon, the entire month it changes. We have a full moon on the 15th of the month, and as we get closer towards the end to the beginning of the month, it gets smaller, and then it gets tiny until that's the whole idea of a new moon. There's a point where the moon is, and only when it gets renewed do we start counting the new month. So and then Vilu or halavana. He says the or halavana, the moon, yesh b'shinuyim in a katza has extreme changes. In the middle of the month, halavana he b'mluyay. We have a full moon. And after the full moon, meir rak chatzi. After 7 days, we only see half a moon. And after that, a few more days, by kes menu karen or achas bavad, we only see a little sliver of the moon. And right before the birth of the new moon, we don't see it at all. That's why there's so much, it's very complicated. The astronomy of how the Bezdin used to calculate when the new moon was. Today we have a calendar, but back in the days of the temple and even many years after the temple, and some people say also, according to some opinions, in the Sanhedrin of the Rif in North Africa, they would still use the witnesses to say when is the new moon, and they had testimonies, and you had to go, and the Bezdin had to decide when to call the new moon. Therefore, if you had a disagreement on if it was, let's say, Sunday or Monday when they saw the new moon, you could have that the days of the holidays of the month could be in different days. What does this all mean in our service to Hashem? So here we're going to learn, what could a person learn from the moon, and what could you learn from the sun? Yesh Yehudim, there's certain types of Jews. You have sun Jews. You have people who serve Hashem like the sun. What does that mean, they serve Hashem like the sun? You have people who are consistent. You have consistent people and inconsistent people. Consistent people are people that are organized. Every day they wake up, and they go to shul. Every Shabbos they're on time. There's certain people that are called the reliable people, right? You know how they're going to be. Their behavior is always the same. Their behavior is always the same. So he goes, Yesh Yehudim, Sha'ifin Avidasim Medugmas Achama. They're like the sun. Sha'indim Tamid Ba'isa Darga. Ume'irim B'Meluyim Mechalataik. They're always shining. They're always, you can rely on them. You know, when you come to shul, you know, these are the 10 people who are going to be in shul. But Yesh Yehudim, there are people. Sha'ifin Avidasim Ukamar Levana. They're moon people. What does that mean, moon people? Today they're like this, tomorrow they're like that. We know that in general the Jewish people are compared to the moon. That's why we count according to the moon. Just like the moon has, hold on a second. Just like the moon has changes, so to the Jewish people in our history we have changes, right? If sometimes we're like King Solomon's time, sometimes we're like the times of Purim. We know that some people are Shabbos people and some people are week people. In the week, we could be very preoccupied. We don't have time to go to do everything. But some people come Shabbos, oh, that's it. I shut off. Shabbos is only for God. So too. You have people that are Yisachar people. What's Yisachar people? The people who learn the whole day. Shikar Vedasim Kava Torah. They're supposed to be learning Torah the whole day. And then you have Livnei Zevulun. You have Zevulun people. The Zevulun is represented by the tribe. Shavedasim and Meshach Hayoim. He binyani mischar. They spend business. So the idea is that when we say it's not regular. The moon represents the concept of the Jewish people. That there's different types of people, different times of the week. Shabbos is not the same like the week. A person who's a business person, their job is to work into business. They learn less. They have a shir in the morning, shir in the afternoon. You have a person who spends the whole day learning Torah. That's why we have the idea that Zevulun, that the people that are business people usually find a partner, because a person wants to learn Torah the whole day, but you can't learn Torah the whole day. So the two tribes of Zevulun and Yisachar made a business agreement. Yisachar said, Zevulun told Yisachar, you learn Torah the whole day, and I'll support you, and we'll be partners. You'll have part of my business, and I'll have part of your reward of learning Torah. Until today, there's a lot of people who make it their business, so to say, to find a partner that they're going to support to learn Torah. So we see that the concept of the moon means that there's differences. Not everything's the same. That the person who's a Zevulun person, which is a business person, which is mischar, they don't always have time. Their business interferes with their ability to always serve Hashem. They can't. They're busy doing business. There's certain days. Sometimes they have people that even the Zevulun person, that they're able to shine their light like the new moon, they shine it full, but sometimes they have less light because they're preoccupied. There are days they only have part of their time they could light. When they say light, it means light of Torah. There's certain days there's only a sliver of light in their life. Like the new moon, there could be some times where today nothing. There's no light that I emanate today in my 24 hours of existence. Claimer, the Rebbes says, sometimes a person could go through a full day of their life. Chavdal Shas, 24 hours. Koil Yehudi, a person wakes up and says, 1 second. I didn't do anything lightful today. I didn't emanate any light today. I was so busy, or thinking I'm busy, in everything else that I'm going on. I didn't have a chance to do a mitzvah, to daven, to put on tefillin, to give tzedakah. Is Yehudi koil Yehudi? A person realizes, I didn't give off any light in this whole day. If a person's purpose of creation is to give off light, what did I do today for my purpose of creation of giving off light? That I'm supposed to give off a godly light, but I didn't give off any light. I was like the moon. The part of the day the moon turns to zero. As kol in yoni agashmim, mila b'shleimus. The Rebbe is giving a little hard, tough love here. Anything when it comes to business and eating and all the material things of your day, that you did fully. Hu achel, he ate, v'shasa, or she ate, drank, v'tayel, you took time for a jog. And it wasn't like you were rushing. You sat down for a full meal and you took a full jog and then you took a shower and relaxed, stretched. You enjoyed your food. And everything was pleasant. You had a good sleep. And then God gave you a blessing that day you were very successful in business. And it's from God's blessing. Who blesses our days? He's so surprised. Wow, I had so much success today. When it comes to the end of the day, when you make the little cheshbon and effort, you're about to go to sleep and you think, what have I done for godliness today? Nothing. I was so busy in my jog and my eating and business and socializing and shopping and everything. And it was a good day in my Zvulun day. But what have I done to give off light in the world? The Rebbe says, imagine. Kol tafkidayu, the whole reason why you exist. God created you for the purpose to give off light in the world. And why do you eat and drink? So too, why do you work? So you could buy the food that you could eat and you could live in a comfortable environment, and you could sleep relaxed. Any day is all the reason why God provides all this for you. So it should be easier for you to give off light. The whole reason God provides for us is so we should have the ability to give off light. So it's easier for stressed out. We can't pay our bills. How are we supposed to give off light? The whole reason why we have gashmis is to fulfill the intention of above, meaning why you were created. But when it comes to the bottom line, you've done everything that you should do, that should provide for you to be able to give off light, but you don't give off the light. You didn't give off any light on that day. We're not talking about a person who doesn't make a blessing in the morning when they eat. But everything's around materialistic. Did you stop for a second to see how can I just be adding to the world, giving back a little bit? So a person, so that from above they come and they ask the person, why haven't you give off the light? Why didn't you emanate light today? You preoccupied yourself on the secondary, which was the work. Why is it called secondary? Because it's only there, so you should be able to have the menucha, the calmness, and the ability to give off light. But so you preoccupied your time in the chitzainis, in the external, in the tafel, in the secondary. But the ikar, you give off light. And when a person in an honest conversation of an evaluation of how you've done today in your life, he says in Yiddish to Rebbe, he realizes what's going on in my life. How am I spending so much time on the secondary and not motivated by the ikr, by the main thing, which is supposed to be by the primary, which is supposed to be to give off light. So what does he say? Then you start to give off light. That's why when does the moon start to get to give off light again? When it gets its darkest point. When you get to your darkest point sometimes is when a person realizes, what am I doing with myself? What am I spending my time in? Because the person doesn't just jump. You can't just say, okay, that's it. Tomorrow I'm not going to do any work. Tomorrow I'm going to sit the whole day in this shul and learn. No, you have to have, everything has to be in a proper pace. You don't do it right away. It takes 15 days. You have a little bit of light on the first day. And it keeps on growing until you have the full moon about yourself, which is that you come to the completion of the 15th day. Like a moon that fills its light. What happens? As soon as you reach your completion, the evil inclination comes to the person and says, he said the Yetzer Hara comes to the person and says, because you're a straight person, so you know that there's many days you didn't light properly. And those days are gone. So there's nothing you could do about it. Only you are in control of the future. You can't do anything about the past. If that's the case, in Hulin. So the Yetzer Hara comes to the person, listen, anyways, you're lost. The days that you've now you're good. What about the days before? So you can't fix the days before. So if you can't fix the days before, what's the point? You're never going to be perfect. It's too late. So the answer that the Yetzer Hara who tries to manipulate, we could just go a little further, then I have to stop. The answer that the Yetzer Hara tells the person is therefore the Yetzer Hara only says it because out of stupidity he says that too late, you can't make up for the lost past. What's the truth? God already knows about this. He knows you're not going to be perfect. Even before Matan Torah. Even when first man was in Garden of Eden, God told him about a leap year. What's the purpose of a leap year? What did we say before? What's the sun? The sun represents the consistency. Sun is the person who's consistent, constantly full light. So the Yetzer Hara comes to the person and says, I'm very happy that you've tried to change your ways, but you can't ever make up for the past. You had 15 days. You had days that were so dark that no light emanated from you. So I don't care how much as you light now, that's not going to get rid of, you can't ever fix what you've done before in your life. And therefore Hashem says, no, that's not true. Every few years we have a leap year where we get an extra 30 days. And God says, we're going to fix those days you didn't light up. We're going to be mashlim your days. We're going to complete your days. When a person has a leap year, we fix those days that we're missing. The days of the inconsistent person to make you a consistent person. That's why the sun and the moon come equal. Therefore, the person who feels that I'm a moon person, I can't keep consistent. I have good days and I have worse days and I have better days. So a person may feel that if I'm constantly going in the cycle of the moon, I have no future. I have changes in my life. Know this, that even if there are days that you're missing in your service of Hashem, you could fix this. So much so. If it's not just 1 year that you have to fix, 3 years. 3 years is like a chazaka. For 3 years you haven't figured it out. When we insert a leap year into the system, at the end of the 3rd year, at the end, the last of the months, the 12th month, the month of Adar, which we're going into now, is when we add that extra time, so we finish the year as a complete person. You fix everything out, and you know what? And after a cycle of 19 years, takes time, you can make up. So we're going to stop over here, but the Rebbe is saying the lesson that a person could learn from a leap year is that even if you look at yourself and say, I'm not a consistent person, I'm a moon person, I'm not a sun person, and I have better days and worse days, and what am I going to do with those days that I never even gave off any light, never mind the little light? So the message the Rebbe says is that a leap year comes to teach us that Hashem says, don't worry, there's an extra 30 days. And in those 30 days, you give yourself to fix the times that you've maybe possibly have been lacking. And Hashem there's nothing lost. Hashem knows that we're human. Hashem knows we make mistakes. And He gives us opportunities not just to make changes for the future, but also to rectify the past. Laila Tov, everyone, and good Shabbos. Take care. Thank you for coming, everyone, and we'll see you next week.